women of a certain age have a lot to contribute, and there's no reason why we have to have a shelf life, while our male colleagues can get gray and wrinkled and they can stay on the air, well past their prime.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview thoughtful, inspiring, and influential guests who are changing the way we think about what is possible in our lives, especially as we age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager, and I love to hear from my listeners, so leave me a comment on zestfulaging.com. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who was also a guest on Zestful Aging. It's off of her new CD, Buffalo Motel, and you can find out more about her on judybanker.com. Well, as usual, I've got my loyal Jack Russell Sparky right by my side. So let's begin. We have a very important episode for you today, and it fits in perfectly with Women's History Month. 5 anchor women at NY1, one of the country's most prominent local news channels, are suing their employer over age and gender discrimination, alleging a systemic effort by managers to force them off of the air in favor of younger, less experienced hosts. And we'll be speaking with 2 of these women today. Roma Torre has won dozens of journalism awards, including 2 Emmys in her 35-year career covering every major news event in New York City. She currently hosts NY1's live noon hour. She's also an award-winning theater critic. And we also will be speaking with Kristen Shaughnessy, who's been an anchor at NY1 since 1995. She's the winner of numerous awards, and she is one of the Irish American power women, and she was live at the scene from the World Trade Towers when they came down in 9/11. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. And I know that you have been very busy covering the virus. I already know from Kristen's Facebook profile that she's up at 2 a.m. So you guys, I don't know how you do it. I really don't. So you've got a lot going on, and
without coffee.
With that is, yeah, I don't understand that one at all. But let me just ask you, these are 2 really big things going on on the air. And also, this is a landmark lawsuit. How are you navigating both at the same time?
Roma?
Yeah, well, you have to compartmentalize your life when you have all of these big events happening at the exact same time, because we are hearing from our lawyers fairly often. I'm also in contract negotiations, and so that's taking up a lot of my time. But when I walk into the newsroom, I don't think about those things, honestly. I put all of that aside, because what we do on NY1 is just so intense, moment to moment. And you see news anchors, oftentimes we just look like we're pretty talking heads, but there's a lot more to it. We're researching our stories and making phone calls, and then certainly writing and editing, copy editing, etc. So the second I walk into that newsroom, I am focused exclusively on the news at hand. And as you know, the coronavirus has just dominated our every waking moment. So even when I go home, I just this moment, I had to tear myself away from listening to the president on a live news conference talking about the coronavirus, just so I could be up to speed when I walk in the door on Monday morning. So it's just, it's never ending. I've always said to the young people, this is not a glamorous job by any stretch of the imagination. This is a calling. I mean, this is something that we do very much like a priest or a doctor would regard their work. We are here to serve the public, and it is a 24/7 occupation.
You said something that I think really is a nice segue. You said this is not a glamorous job, but it does sound like some people believe that's what it should be about.
Unfortunately, yes, they do. But I would say 90%, maybe, Kristen, you might chime in on this, but 95% of the working women and men in our business don't really make a big salary at all. I mean, there's an emphasis on appearance, obviously, so we have to look glamorous. At least that's what some of our bosses want us to look like. But honestly, we're, in my mind, in my head, it's not about looking good. It's about doing good work. But you know what? I have said this in the past. It used to be that beauty queens would aspire to be newswomen, and more and more and more I'm seeing newswomen aspiring to be beauty queens. And that to me, that's unfortunate. And it doesn't really make sense in our current climate.
Yeah, journalism has to be in your core. You have to just want to consume news constantly, and I think we're all just hungry for information and to be relayers of that information. Facts matter.
Yep, they do.
I see. So when did the two of you, and this may have happened at different times, start getting an inkling that things were changing and that perhaps you were not getting the respect or the airtime or, I don't know exactly how it goes in your industry, but you were starting to say, wait a minute, something's changed, something's different here, and it's not feeling good.
I think it may have been with me, right, Roma, when we saw...
It was you.
Yeah, there were a bunch of changes that were made, and I was excluded from all of them. And I had been the main fill-in morning and dayside anchor for 22 years at that point. And there was no discussion, and when I asked, they told me I was not owed an explanation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. There was a point about 3 years ago, I guess it was, I guess it was 3 years ago, when, and it was right around, actually almost exactly 3 years from this month, that our new parent company fired a bunch of mostly older on-camera people. And that was sort of a wake-up call to me. And I fortunately was not in that group, but it started to dawn on me, And then that year, I think it was, that NY1 was celebrating its 25th anniversary. And I was actually the very first person hired to be on camera at NY1 in April of 1992. And nobody wanted to do anything with me. Nobody wanted to celebrate my 25 years. And I really thought, what a wonderfully promotable opportunity it is for the company to say, hey, Roma's with us 25 years. I mean, just, the fun that would have, that they could have tapped into.
And the morale, how lovely that would be to feel appreciated and have other people say they care and recognize us.
Right. I mean, that goes without saying, but I mean, just think about it. Just the visuals of this, showing me with those awful 1990s, those big shouldered suits. And
goodness.
My hair and all that. And, it's fun just to laugh at those old images. If they didn't have anything at all. And the contrast, and this is what really got us going, was that one of our male anchors, who was celebrating his 20 years at NY1, they just pulled out all the stops for him and had a massive celebration, and they spent a lot of money apparently, and they had commercials and promotions and all of that. So at that point, I realized, okay, I'm on my way out. It was pretty clear.
Is this management, this new management, are they mostly male, or they also have women?
It is mostly male at the top.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's typical for your industry?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, Roma, as a psychotherapist, I'm trying to think about how you must have felt, being basically passed over and then all this celebration going on. I mean, how do you deal with the feelings that must have engendered?
Well, obviously it hurt a lot, and I didn't understand why. I mean, just from a simple, you mentioned morale. Okay, that's within our newsroom culture, and that certainly made no sense to me. But from a business standpoint, and we're talking about, a profit-making venture this company is, that they didn't see the potential in celebrating not just me, but the whole. They didn't even mark the 25 years of New York One. So I just thought, wow, I mean, they could have gotten so much interest and attention by putting me out there. So it made no sense. And
it was really a missed opportunity because many of our viewers have been with us since the very beginning. So they would have been celebrating right along with us.
Right.
I see. And you really have, it sounds like, I mean, I'm upstate, so I'm not privy to your to your channel, but it sounds like it's a very special channel, and that, from what I understand, is kind of near and dear to New Yorkers' hearts. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You know what it is? We were when we started at New York One, our visionary founder was a wonderful gentleman named Richard Aurelio, who's still with us, thank God. I mean, he's not with the company; he's retired long ago, but he's very much alive and kicking. And it was his dream to establish a hometown news channel for New Yorkers, and it was essentially built on this model of no frills. And we all had to be New Yorkers. They couldn't expect us to be all born and bred, but we all had to be living in New York City and be very attuned to the culture of the city. And he liked the idea that some of us had thick New York accents.
Right.
He wanted us to look and sound like real New Yorkers, which was a wonderful concept. And so that's how we started. And
it was like a gritty station, right?
Right.
It was the
real life.
Yeah.
Real
I'll give you this
people.
example, Nicole. When I first started, it was hard to get your questions answered at a press conference because we were still the upstart. And then after a while it became, you ask the question because I'll answer your question, because we established ourselves as we'll cover the city 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are there for New Yorkers.
Right. And it caught on in a very, very big way. And we did have a lot of followers. And I mean, we still do, obviously.
So it doesn't have a generic feel of some of the other broadcasts.
No. I mean, we are very homegrown New Yorkers. And, we tell the story. Yeah. And I'm very proud. And to be honest with you, for the longest time, nobody wanted to leave New York One, even though, and I'm the first to admit that the pay isn't the greatest, relative to other New York City news channels, but it was a family atmosphere, and it was a team effort. We all worked so well together, and so the turnover was very, very light in there, and we used to laugh. You'd have to commit a crime in order to leave New York One.
I see.
That was a saying, yes.
Very cohesive and felt unusual. Now, was it a clear change when the company was bought out? Is that where sort of this happened, or had it been developing even earlier?
It was when the new company came in. It was just a completely different mandate, and they had a different approach. They were not from the city. They're from Connecticut. They were not familiar with New York One. They were not familiar with us. They didn't want to get to know us. We really kind of were written off before they even decided to establish a relationship with any of us. So.
Yeah, it seemed pretty clear that they were going with this model of having younger, prettier faces on the air. And so I think just simply by virtue of the fact that we were older, they thought maybe we wouldn't sell as well, or we weren't as attractive enough for television news. We called it the Foxification of the news broadcast, because you see the standard look on Fox, and I mean it's been replicated elsewhere, is very, very beautiful women, beautifully thin with that anchor dress that they all wear, and very show the legs.
A lot of blonde
shoes.
hair.
Right. And,
blonde hair,
a lot of very pretty beauty queen type looks. And so they were
Nicole,
trying to replicate that.
We should say that, our complaints are with management and not with our colleagues, because we have some very talented younger colleagues. The thing is, they are also going to get older, and they're going to have to deal with this. This doesn't change just because they're the ones who are younger now. So we are really fighting for them as well. And hopefully they're starting to see that as we continue to go in there every day and work hard and do our job.
Does it set up an awkwardness between you and the younger women?
It depends on who.
Some.
Yeah, some it does and some it doesn't. Some have gotten it right from the very beginning. Others still don't understand it and are angry. And that's, they'll understand it at some point, I'm sure. But, for the most part, I think they've come around. Wouldn't you say, Roma?
Yeah,
Aside from a select few.
A lot of, look, we have, as I mentioned, it was a family environment at NY1. I mean, I still regard it as a family. And when the younger producers and news assistants come in, I'm happy to mentor them if, they ask. I mean, I'm not shoving myself down their throats, but just by virtue of the years of experience that I've had, and my writing muscle is is pretty in tune right now, so I can help them get better in their work. But some of them relish it, and others want no part of us, and it's unfortunate because I just really feel we could accomplish so much more if we're all willing to work together.
We have more than 100 years of experience in NY1's newsroom alone, aside from the other jobs that we've held in the past.
I see. Wow. Hi, everyone. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down, and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long, exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. So how did this go? You said, Roma, it was very clear that your anniversary there was passed up, and someone in your cohort, a man, was celebrated. They put a lot of resources into. Who first said, this is not going anywhere and I need to take it up another level?
Well, that's funny because individually, I think, there are 5 of us co-plaintiffs in this lawsuit, but individually, each one of us, I think, at some point came to the realization that we didn't have much of a future in this new dynamic in this newsroom. And so I think it was, what tipped me off was Kristen most particularly. I really thought, I was approaching 60 at that point, and I thought, wow, I have to come to terms with the fact that older women are not on the air. And I just thought that they were going to phase me out. And I obviously was fighting it, but it didn't seem that strange to me that this would be happening to someone like me. Kristen is a lot younger than me, and they were doing that to her. And when I saw that, it really got my dander up, because Kristen is such an amazing journalist, and she does it all. And she's so competent on the air. And not only that, she looks great too. So it made no sense to me that they were trying to push Kristen out, but it was so clear that they were. She was the main sub anchor in the mornings. I think she had something like 50 days subbing in the mornings, which are obviously the most watched times. That's the news slot that gets the highest ratings. So all of a sudden, with the new management, she went from 50 something to 0. They weren't putting her on the air at all in the morning.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that just
That's
made no
extreme.
sense. So when I saw that burned my blood. And I said, we got to do something. And then one by one, we all kind of got together and realized, we had a case.
Mm-hmm. What was that like to get together and say, we've got to take this up in the legal system?
It was a difficult decision, I think, for
scary.
all of us. It was very scary. We all went back and forth, back and forth. It's a big decision. You realize, these are careers that we love, and you realize that you could be killing your career, but this is a bigger issue, and it's not just the 5 of us. This is happening to men and women all over the country and all over the world. So at some point, somebody's got to stand up, and we have a platform, and we said it's time to use that platform. It was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of back and forth, but ultimately you have to stand up for the truth. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you know what, Nicole, right to the last minute, some of us were trying to back out of it, saying, no, this is going to be foolish. And, we were counseled by family members, friends. Some of us had, family members in the legal profession, and we were getting all sorts of different advice. But mostly what we were hearing was, this is the end of your careers.
Goodness.
You are going to destroy any future that you have in this business.
You'll be pariahs.
Right. Nobody wants to work with whiners. Nobody wants to work with somebody who's
You're whistleblowers too.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so then you eventually got the name, the New York City 5.
Of the New York 1-5. Yeah. I think that was coined by somebody on Facebook, actually, one of our viewers. And it has kind of stuck. And then the New York City Council has introduced legislation based on our case, anti-age discrimination legislation, which we're happy that they did that. It's sad that we need it.
Did you report on that?
Vivian and Amanda and Marisol testified at the City Council hearing. We did not report on it.
Yeah.
So you've dedicated your life to this really tough profession, and now you're going to do something else that's pretty tough.
Yes.
Which is the lawsuit.
The lawsuit. I mean, do you identify yourself as women who are particularly strong and rebellious, or not necessarily?
Well, let me just add to this. You're asking how it felt and what it was like, trying to make this decision.
Yes.
Kristen and I shared something that we had in common that we didn't even realize, but leading up to the lawsuit, those last couple of years before, we decided to, pull the trigger and go ahead with it, we had a lot of very restless, sleepless nights because we just didn't know what to do. We were so anxiety ridden about the treatment that we were receiving, and how clear it was that they were probably going to try to not renew our contracts, et cetera. And so the day that we filed the lawsuit was one of the most anxiety ridden of all my entire life, because I was so afraid of how it was going to go down. But after that, I really honestly haven't had a sleepless night since. It's been, my conscience is clear, and I feel I empowered myself. I did everything I could to call attention to this injustice and this discriminatory treatment that we had felt. So at that point, I realized we did make the right decision. Despite all of the back and forth and the doubts and the worries. I think we finally made the right decision. We
very in line with your values ultimately, so you could feel some peace about it.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been easy, obviously, but I just feel I'm at peace with myself. I am. I feel like I did the right thing.
It's easy when you have the truth on your side. It's just hard in the day-to-day because you are still working full-time and a fairly intense job, and this certainly doesn't make it, any easier, So
you went into the studio, and did you know when your employers were going to receive notice? Were you aware when this was going to break?
Should I tell the story, Roma?
Yeah.
Okay. So we knew it was going to happen. They have kept Janine and Amanda basically away from the newsroom. They shoot and edit by themselves every day, so they're not there. Vivian is only there 3 days a week. So it was just Roma and I who were going to be in the newsroom that day. And I wanted to get out of the newsroom because we knew it was going to become public. So I went on my story. Roma was in the morning meeting. And Roma, you can take it from there, but the New York Times alert went off on everyone's phones. And as I've been told the story many times by many of our colleagues, everybody looked down at their phones. Then they looked up at Roma. And she looked at them like, yep, that's right.
Oh, that sounds like a movie scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what did you do after that, Roma? You walked right down the middle of the newsroom.
Everybody was like in shock. And then I got up and I walked, the news, it's a very big open space there. And I walked through the newsroom and I got a bunch of high fives. I got people were cheering me on. There were cliques of people standing together, and they grabbed me and gave me a big hug. And in some cases, they wanted to hug me in front of our managers' offices. And these are the people we're suing. And I said, no, we should keep our distance. You don't want to, be with me at this point. And they were like, no, we want to show solidarity.
Oh.
And so that felt really, really good. And
you can't write that any better.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was down at Manhattan Criminal Court, and again, I had thought once we filed, no one's going to talk to me in that newsroom except for Roma. So we were down there. I was with one of our shooters who was just amazingly supportive, and she was like, "Good for you! Finally, someone's calling it out. We all see it." And then I was going through the courthouse, and I had police officers and court officers. I mean, this had just broke, and people were coming up to me, and it was really, really nice. Our phones were just blowing up.
Oh, my goodness. I can't imagine what that must have felt like, given that you were, understandably so nervous about the backlash.
We had no idea what it would be like, and then it was great. Then I went to Rikers Island to cover another story, and the support there was wonderful. In fact, one of our old colleagues said, I have to stop my car and come and give you a hug, which was really nice.
Oh, my.
And then when I got back to the newsroom, I experienced a lot of what Roma experienced.
Yeah. And, and from that point on, it was like a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And then it hit newspapers all over the world. And I mean, not just in our country, but I heard from a friend in Macedonia and said, oh my God, you're my champion.
My goodness.
It was in China, it was in Japan, it was in Australia, it was in Ireland, it was in England, and women from all over the planet were sending us notes and not only cheering us on, but then telling us their tales of woe and how they had felt similar mistreatment in their workplace. And, I heard from, you won't believe this, I heard from women who had been in the Obama administration and couldn't get hired anywhere after they left Washington because of their age. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it was like, wow, and somebody actually said, well, you started a movement. I mean, that wasn't our aim necessarily, but if it is that big enough to change the game for thousands, millions of women in the world, well, I feel, wow, that's just a wonderful benefit of something that we just felt had to be done.
And you have some pretty influential supporters.
We do. Maria Shriver was nice enough to let us write a column for her. We have heard from a number of politicians, Roma, who have given their support. A lot of the borough presidents, that has been nice. The mayor has given his support.
Yep. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, Katie Couric supported us. Lin-Manuel Miranda sent a lovely, tweet on our behalf. So, I mean, thank you, Lynn. He's
wow.
a great guy. Yeah,
that's
so
wonderful.
We're really touched by that.
And when Roma's our theater critic and very well known in the theater community, and when you go to the theater with her, you see the support, and it's just wonderful.
Oh my goodness, it's really changed your lives.
Yeah, I mean, and unintentionally, believe me. I mean, that's another part of it too. As journalists, and I regard myself as a journalist of the old school, and I know I'm sure that probably ages me even further, but. I go by the understanding that we're not the story.
Right.
We tell other stories. We're conduits. And so it's difficult for us to be at the center of the story. I mean, even talking to you now about it, it's a little odd because I report on other people.
We're supposed to be interviewing you.
Right. We ask the questions.
Yeah.
So it's awkward for us.
It's strange. That's right. I can imagine that. So what would be the best outcome of this? What would make you feel really pleased and happy as this is adjudicated?
That men who decided we were too old are not allowed to dictate that our careers are over if we're doing a good job. If you're doing the work, if you're working hard, you should be allowed to continue in your careers. So we would like that. There are other things we'd like as well, like a change in management. We'll see what we get.
Yeah. I mean, we as I said before, and this was sort of our mantra, change the game. We want people to realize that women of a certain age have a lot to contribute, and there's no reason why we have to have a shelf life while our male colleagues can get gray and wrinkled and they can stay on the air, well past their prime. And, I feel like I'm in my prime. I think I'm as good as I'll ever be by virtue of the fact that I feel very comfortable on the air, and I feel comfortable having had experienced so much in the past, and I can use that to add perspective and context in my news reporting. And I mean, these are things that don't come that quickly nor easily. But if you've been in the business as long as I have, you would think that those are attributes that you want to celebrate, not to discard. So
that makes so much sense. Yeah,
here we are. Right.
Institutional knowledge is a very big thing, and it's a valuable tool, particularly in news, because you have to have context, as Roma said, to past events and to past officials. So there is room at the table for everyone, but there is definitely room for institutionalized and knowledge and experience.
It's interesting. I had a woman call me. I'm a psychotherapist, and she said, I tried to see this other woman, but she was in her 20s and she had no life experience. I just didn't think it would be a good fit. And I just thought that was an interesting comment, wanting to talk to someone who, as you said, has a context and has had some lived experience really has value.
And Nicole, let me just add one thing.
Yeah, please.
That's why generally in a newsroom there's a pecking order and there are rites of passage, and you don't get to be an anchor until you've been reporting in the field for a certain amount of time, so that you can gain the experience that you need in order to be able to have that voice of authority when you do go on the air and people hear you and you can gain their trust as someone who knows what they're talking about. But to put people on the air straight out of journalism school or wherever they went to get their training without having gained all that experience that you would in the field is unfortunate, and mistakes will be made. And I think this new concept of putting younger people on the air without the experience is going to get newsrooms into a lot of trouble, and it may be contributing to this kind of distrust that there is in the community for the media. I mean, they don't look at us in the same. I mean, as I was saying this the other night, there are no Walter Cronkites on the air anymore. There's no voice of authority that everybody says, well, if Uncle Walter said it, it must be true.
I see.
There's nobody on the air that has, carries that kind of weight and authority, and that's unfortunate.
That's really interesting. You know what I was thinking, who's a very notable exception, is Judy Woodruff.
Love her, yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me about how she has been able to stay on the air? Because she is obviously a woman of years, and I don't know. She's very much of an exception.
Yeah.
I would say she and Andrea Mitchell, right? Or two of the only older female correspondents.
To be honest with you, there are quite a few, and I'm, at the network level.
At the network level, yes, yeah.
Locally,
not in the local news.
Locally, it's hard.
Yes.
It is, but at the network level, I think they've come to the reality or the understanding that you really there is great value in older people, not just older men or older women, older people who know what's going on in the world. And so Judy Woodruff is certainly, although for every Judy Woodruff, there's 10 older women at the networks who were forced out. And that part is unfortunate. But the lucky ones like Judy, I'm thinking of, Andrea Mitchell certainly. There are a bunch of them. I can't even think. It's terrible that they're not coming to mind right now. But
because you're sleep deprived, I'm sure.
When we went to Roma's Emmy induction, there were a lot of older women in TV there, and they all understood exactly what our case was about. And they were glad we were fighting, that somebody had called it out. So for everyone to have these similar shared experiences, there's something to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear you, because when you were describing, this is a calling. This isn't, we don't get paid as much as you might think we do. This is hard. This is kind of in our blood, and really wanting to contribute, I think, to the greater good. And this has evolved way past, I think, what you had imagined in really contributing to the greater good. And the time is now. Women are ready for this.
That's true. I mean, the culture with the Me Too movement and now the conviction of Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
The tide has turned, certainly. And I think people are just taking a second look and realizing that they've got to regard women in a different way.
And so where are we now in the process? Two parts to this. Where are we in the process, and what can our listeners do to support you?
Well, the best way to support us would be on social media. We're on all the platforms. It's Unseen on TV or Unseen Women on TV, depending on the platform. And then the five of us are on most or all of the platforms. And then as for the case, we're just kind of waiting for legal proceedings to be addressed, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah. And we just encourage women to stand up for themselves. And look, I know it's very intimidating at work. And these stories that women have told us, and they're pouring their hearts out about how badly they were treated in their newsrooms. And it's unforgivable and inexcusable, yet they've got to stand up in one way or another. And to be honest, the five of us have talked about starting some kind of foundation to help women in these situations cope with their management and their poor treatment in the newsrooms or in any workplace, because it's got to stop.
It's very ingrained discrimination in our society, so we have to change the way of thinking, because this has been going on for so long that people don't even realize that it's happening until you really look at it closely. And then, as one of our co-plaintiffs, Janine Ramirez, says, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right. That brought to mind somewhere I had read that ageism is the last acceptable ism, because there is this sort of built-in discrimination against older people, but particularly women in the workplace. And it's accepted. And I'm telling you, as I mentioned earlier, I was kind of accepted in my case. I just thought, well, you're not getting any younger, you're getting older, and maybe it is time to leave. Why? Why is it time? I had to reassess and say, why? I'm good at what I do. I don't know why I would have to leave just because I'm a little older. So we've got to change the mindset. that's not going to be easy, obviously, but people have to see that women of a certain age have plenty to contribute. I mean, my God, look at Elizabeth Warren, 70 years old, and she nailed all of her debates. You know, she put billionaire Michael Bloomberg in a corner, and I mean the poor guy was devastated. And I think, you know, day one on that debate stage, he knocked him right out of the race. So look how vital she is, and how, you know, tough and sharp, and this is what we all have to look forward to. Hopefully, that, you know, we have that kind of future, and we want the world to recognize that.
And I think it starts at the top. You just need more diversity in age, in gender, in race at the top, because you need to have more voices in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're really amplifying this issue, and that it's just in so many versions, and I hear it from so many different guests in their own, you know, lives or in their own ways. Not that they're anchor women, but that they're just they feel like they're ready to step up, and they're not willing to be invisible once they hit menopause. That's just not acceptable, and that they're proving this is just purely discrimination. And in fact, I was just interviewing people who are master athletes, and the same kind of thinking is, you know, oh, when I get older, I can't do my athletic event. And these are women 60, 70, 80, and they travel the world. You know, their whole lives are about practicing their events and meeting in their international competitive conferences, and it's just fabulous to watch that.
And I think as women get older, you find your voice more and more with every decade, and that probably doesn't go over as well either with bosses who would like you to be a little bit more just, okay, whatever you need, whatever you want,
right,
without questioning decisions.
Right. And so there's not necessarily a timeline here. You're sort of in limbo, waiting to hear the next. Yeah. How's that? Just the waiting. How's that been for you?
Well, you know, the thing is, we all love our jobs, and we are newswomen through and through, and we enjoy coming in and doing that thing that, you know, we've been trained to do, that we love so much. So, you know, the waiting, it's a little frustrating that things are moving so slowly, but on the other hand, we get to show up for work every day. You know, unlike other lawsuits related to their, you know, job experience, we have not been fired, and we are still showing up for work every day. So that kind of compensates for the fact that we're in this predicament, in this precarious position here, where we really don't know what our future holds for us. But we go day to day.
And you can see how much support you have.
Yeah. That makes all the difference. It really does.
It really does.
Yeah. And from the younger folks as well. Honestly, there have been so many of them say, you know, we get it. We totally get it. And we are not out to displace anybody. You know, I think so many of the younger women that we work with are extremely talented, and, you know, they deserve to do what they're doing. We're just saying, don't take us out and put them in our place. Let us share the space. You know,
well, it's an intergenerational model of we all have something to contribute,
and we can all learn from each other.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I am hoping that you are all staying healthy and well and as rested as you can. I know it must be really exhausting reporting, being a reporter right now, and we appreciate you doing that. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with me and help us understand what's going on, and actually, you know, allowing us to root for you and support you as well.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, we totally.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. In this phase of our lives, we're more aware that our time is precious, and we certainly don't want to waste it taking care of stuff that we no longer need, left over from a life that we are no longer living. We know we would feel better with less clutter and more open space, but we don't know how to get there. If this sounds familiar, I'd love you to check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. This course is different than others you may have tried because we give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and tools to help you face the overwhelm and feelings that come up when you're going through your clutter. It's practical and realistic, and the lessons are short and punchy and very manageable, but it has the power to change your life. We all deserve to live in a peaceful home without the chaos of too much stuff. Find out more at NicoleChristina.com. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.